Hello beautiful people and welcome to another video. I'll be working on this bookshelf that doesn't look too bad from a distance, but I had to take it apart. That's how bad it was.
Do you think we can fix it?
I think Mando has faith in me. So have a look at the damage. The varnish is completely gone. There are lots of weird patches. Possibly there were hinges in there at some point. I don't know what this huge chunk of wood was meant to be doing. And there were just dozens of holes that someone plugged with dowels, which is just weird. The back looks okay-ish. I think I need to take this whole thing apart. And that's exactly what I did. I popped the back off and I wanted to take the whole thing apart because it was put together with dovetail joints. I thought that hopefully someone used brown glue which would allow me to heat it up and take it all apart. There was some serious work to be done on the inside, and unless I could take it apart, it would have been very difficult. So I tried heating it up with my heat gun and it didn't seem like it was coming apart. Looks like this has been put together with dowels, which is okay. When you think about attaching the shelves, it makes sense, but someone also put dowels through the dovetail joints and then covered them with tinted lacquer, so I couldn't really see them at first. The second shelf did not come out without a fight, so I had to use some other tricks, but I managed eventually. The shelf cracked when I was trying to pull this out, so I'm gonna glue it. Fortunately, that was very simple. A little bit of wood glue, some clamping force, and Bob's your uncle. As I mentioned, there were lots of dowels put through the dovetail joints, so I had to drill them out before I could even attempt to take it apart. And even with that, it didn't really work, so I used my steamer trying to soften the glue. I don't know what glue they used to put it together, but it was not coming apart. But I'm determined and stubborn and eventually managed to take it apart. This huge crack was just there, and I realized it was there when I took it apart. So again, that was pretty straightforward. I just applied some wood glue, lots of clamps, and pretty simple. It's funny because this looked like one of those quick projects, which I kind of knew it wasn't going to be quick. I didn't know it was gonna take this long, but yeah, this just gives you an idea that sometimes you look at a piece of furniture and it seems very simple to fix, and it isn't. For anyone who was going to say something about the fact that I'm covering this with veneer, look at this. I don't even know how many holes there used to be that are plugged with dowels. This is just absolutely terrible. All of these are holes. Unless someone put all those holes in this poor bookshelf for fun, I genuinely had no idea what's another reason someone might want to do that. This is the groove where the back piece sits in, so I just cleaned it up because there was some glue in it. I don't know what the deal is with this, but as you can see, this is another shelf and it's got a bunch of holes. This makes no sense to me whatsoever. It's not practical, to try and blend all these repairs in with the rest of it, so I'm just going to cover this with veneer. But because I wanted to keep this original and obviously it wasn't practical, I decided to cover it with veneer that was made from the same wood that this bookshelf was made from. And I think it will make a little more sense later on. Because, as I said, I'm going to cover this with veneer, I did need to make it look pretty, but I wanted to remove all the remaining varnish and stain just to have a nice substrate for adhesion. Just to show you that this is the problem pretty much everywhere. This bit is the top of this bookshelf and there are plenty of holes. I don't know what it is, but this is really strange. Even though this didn't need to be perfect, I think someone just planed it before applying the finish, so there were some really deep scratches.
$2,000 later.
Most of the imperfections will be covered by veneer, but there are places like here, and this ding is just a bit too deep. So I'm going to use some heat and moisture to try and expand the grain and make it more flat. Yeah, this is better and it will definitely do. There's some bits of wood missing, so I'm going to cut a thin piece off and replace it with a solid piece of wood because I'm a professional. After cutting this piece to size, I simply applied some wood glue and clamped it together. So this is the back of this bookcase and it's in a terrible condition. And I'm actually thinking that I might put wallpaper on it for a change. I never do it, but for this project, I think it will actually work. What do you think? I asked Rod to sand it, and when he was done, I patched all the holes with wood filler because, surprise, surprise, there were lots of them.
Surprise, surprise. Surprise, surprise.
So I decided I would not cover this with wallpaper, but apply veneer just like on the rest of this bookshelf. I also found a few more cracks and small things to be repaired, so I did all of that. If you follow me on my social media and look at the community posts, you might know that I'm in Turkey and I'm actually editing this video while looking at the Mediterranean Sea, so it's quite nice. And I think I'll put some footage at the end of this video if you're interested, just kind of as a bonus. This veneer is sapele, which is exactly the same species as the wood that the bookshelf was made from. I'm going to apply it with contact adhesive in a spray form, which is something I've been using recently and is my new favorite method of applying veneer. If you've never used it before, do it because you're gonna love it. This is so much quicker and easier, it dries faster than using the regular contact adhesive, and it's just a game changer. This is a little more expensive, but still, this is just like a generic brand, so it's not expensive at all. And when you think about the time it saves you and how easy it is, I'll never use anything else. And by the way, as always, just wanted to say huge thank you to all of you beautiful people for engaging with my videos, for liking, commenting, and just being part of this wonderful community that I appreciate so much. If anyone would like to contribute to my channel, all the links are in the description. And as always, I'll love you forever. Thank you. If you've never done this before, once you put the veneer on, you cannot remove it, and the wooden tool I'm using right now, I just made it myself, just to make sure I can apply even pressure and the whole thing is adhered properly. So the reason I decided to go with sapele veneer is that the edges will look exactly like the veneer, and it actually looks like it did originally, so I think this was just a smart decision. And yes, despite doing this, it would have looked okay on some of the shelves, but some of them had a little bit of damage, so I did end up covering them with sapele veneer as well, just to make sure they were perfect, because I'm a professional. So you will not be able to see the dovetail joints once I'm done with this, but there's just so many holes in them and so much damage that this was just the way to go. If you've been watching my videos, you know that I like to try and make plain pieces of furniture look a bit more fancy, so that's exactly what I wanted to do with this piece, and I just didn't know how to go about it. As you heard me say at the beginning, I thought about using wallpaper on the back piece, but I decided against it and still wanted to do something special. I'm very curious what you think about my idea. But before I show you what I did, I need to cut some more pieces of veneer, and Mando is hard at work supervising.
Excuse me, young man.
I think Mando is growing up, because this is what he brought home the other day. And there was also a gutted mouse in the bathroom. I learned from my neighbor the other day that Hugo, the other cat that's much older than Mando, takes Mando hunting, and I guess that's how he's learned. Anyhow, I think this is where used to be hinges for whatever reason, but obviously I need to cover them so I can apply veneer on top. I simply cut a piece of plywood and use some wood glue, and instead of using a clamp, I use super glue and activator. The plywood was a bit too thick, so once the glue was dry, I sanded it flat. I used a ruler just to make sure that the end of this piece of veneer was nice and straight. I remember at the beginning when I started working with veneer, it was a bit intimidating, and now that I've done it, I don't even know how many times, it's actually very simple. And to everyone who's worried about using veneer, or you think it might be difficult, just go for it, or even do it on a piece of wood, just like a random piece of scrap wood, just to, see what it's like, and I promise you it's actually not that hard. The grooves on the inside of this bookshelves for one of the shelves, so once I'm done applying this piece of veneer, I'll need to cut out that piece so I can actually slide the shelf in. And if you're using contact adhesive like I'm doing now, and you sprayed somewhere you're not supposed to, you can easily clean it up with acetone. And because sometimes I do learn from my mistakes, I used a piece of tape just to make sure I wouldn't spray it this time on the already applied veneer. Just another proof that I'm a professional. I cut this piece too short for whatever reason, and obviously I can't take it off now, so I just cut a bit more, and this is actually the same larger piece, so the grain will be continued and it should look seamless. And yes, I could have done it off camera or even tried to remove this whole piece of veneer and redo it, but I just want to show you that even people who do it all the time, they make mistakes all the time. And if you remember, I said I was going to use wallpaper for the back, but decided to use veneer instead, and I think this was a better choice. I did not want to make a mess, so I used some Scotch tape. And unlike the person who put this together originally, I used old brown glue, so if anyone ever wants to take it apart, it should be pretty easy. That's after they get through the veneer, of course. Because this bookshelf didn't have enough holes already, I made a few more. And the reason I did it is so I could put some screws in for extra strength, and all the existing holes I'm going to plug with dowels. Alright, if you've been watching my videos for a while now, I've got a challenge. Put in the comments what you think I'm going to do to this bookshelf to make it look more fancy and no cheating. Or alternatively, you can say what you would do. And once you see what I've done, I want you to help me pick a title for this video because I have no idea what to call it. And you will see why. Anyhow, once I was finally done veneering the whole thing, I was able to put it together and start working on the outside. And to make sure it wouldn't fall apart, I clamped it together. As I mentioned before, I used dowels to plug all the holes, and there were a few little ones, and I just used wooden skewers, and that did the trick. This is a good trick for MDF furniture when you have a screw that falls out because a piece of MDF just crumbled. You can plug it with skewers and wood glue, and when it's dry, you can just put another screw in. And this is a very DIY solution for people who are not very handy. Most of us have wooden skewers at home, and you can just buy some wood glue and you don't need a saw, you can just break off the ends. What I'm doing here is just something that's not necessary, but I wanted the transition between those two pieces of veneer to be perfect, so I applied some Scotch tape and filled in the gap with wood filler. And Bob's your uncle. And now I just need to do the outside, so pretty much the same steps. I sprayed the whole thing with contact adhesive, applied the veneer, did some cleaning up with sandpaper and my handheld router, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I made sure that all the corners look nice and pretty, and I gave everything one more sanding. This time I think was 180 grit, and I went all the way to 220. I checked everything for scratches and made sure it was ready for the top coat. And even though no one's gonna see it, I put a piece of veneer on the bottom because it just didn't look nice. And here it is, my special extra thing. I don't even know what to call it, so I'll let you guys see what I'm doing and I'll let you tell me what it is, because I don't know. Basically, I wanted some sort of way to divide this bookshelf because obviously there are going to be books in it, so I wanted them to rest against something, and the only thing that this reminds me of is a corset. I basically grabbed a bunch of those eyelet screws, I think that's what you call them, and they can be used for all sorts of things like hanging pictures or whatever. I divided them evenly on the bottom and top of the top and bottom shelves, and I have this stretchy cord thingy that I basically threaded through. I'm trying to come up with a nice way of ending this bit, so I just found this old escutcheon, or whatever you call this, cut it in half, and I'm gonna try and use this to basically make a stopper. I also used a lighter off camera to stab the end of the cord from frame. This bookshelf originally had slanted legs and it looked very mid-century modern, and I wanted to do something that would make it look even more mid-century modern, and I think this is it. I've never actually seen a bookshelf like this, and I did look because I didn't know what to call it, and the closest thing I found was like a magazine rack, but I really like it. What do you guys think? If you remember, I said I was going to apply veneer on the edges, and that's what I did. I basically ordered some iron-on veneer because it was the easiest and the cleanest way to do this, and it looks nice now. I did some cleaning up and I removed all the eyelet screws and the cord before I could apply the finish. As I've been doing recently, I decided to go with hard wax oil with a little bit of pigment. I'm trying to get the right color for this piece, and I was just playing with some oil and these two pigments. I've got black and brown umber, and it looks like the best combination is a little bit of each, because this is nice, but I think it's just a bit too brown and this is too dark. So I'll mix it now. When you do this, you need to make sure you've got enough, because if you run out, unless you measure it, you won't be able to get the same color, so something to keep in mind. I think that's pretty close to what I was going for. I think it might actually be better. I applied 2 coats of oil and I was very happy with the color. As far as the legs, I didn't want to go with the slanted ones, even though I had brand new ones. They just didn't look right for this piece, so I went with black legs that are straight. This bookshelf is quite small, so most of the legs that I tried were a bit too long. But because these are the right size and they're also black, they go with the color of the cord that I'm going to use for the divider. I actually talked to Angie from Transcend Furniture Gallery, and she did a search using one of the AI thingies, and the results that came back said that this would be called something like dynamic lattice, tensile web, strand divider, suspension slice, linear web divider, angle weave, threaded wall, or whatever. So as you can see, the names are just a bit weird, so I'm waiting for one of you to give me the best name for this that I can use in my title. I think for now I'm gonna combine some of them and go with tensile angle weave divider. How about that? Anyhow, so this is almost done. I just need to finish applying the oil, put the back on, and put the eyelet screws and the cord back in, and it's all done. Probably most of you watching don't care, but some of you do, so I'm going to put some footage from my Turkey trip at the end of this video after the final reveal, so you're welcome to have a look if you are interested. This is always my favorite part of working on a project, when I can finally see in real life the vision that I had or didn't have in my mind, because sometimes I just wing it. But as you can see, this is kind of vibing. I really like the look, and I think the idea with the cord was definitely a good one. I think this is looking very elegant. The black cord goes with the legs, and those tiny eyelid screws, just give it that little bling that it needs to make it pop. And of course I use brass nails to attach the bag because, as you know by now, I'm fancy AF. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and the project. If you have, give me a like and comment. And as always, thank you so much for watching and see you in the next video. I could definitely think of a few worse locations for editing a video. I'll just show you where I am. I was gonna go for a run this morning, but this looks more like a hike. There were cats everywhere, which of course I didn't mind. I bet that this prime location for a cat house must be quite expensive. If you follow me on other social media, you know that I was in Turkey. This is Antalya. My hotel was right next to the sea and it was beautiful. And the reason I went there is because I wanted to redo my teeth. I had them done in England, but I was very unhappy with the results. So it was a short vacation, but also, you know, a dentist visit. And over the moon with the results, so as you will see in a minute in a picture. And because I had some time off after I was done with my teeth, I went to this really cool island. It's called Suluada, and they also call it the Turkish Maldives, and these are my new teeth. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.